Well, good morning, everybody. I'll try and be reasonably brief with this. There's the article I've just put on. In fact, I've got the computer on here. I've just put on about from the Guardian newspaper about discovery of alien life may be close. How will religion survive it? Very interesting article, actually. And the reason I'm making this is to offer my opinion on the subject, let's say, and I know some of you will say, yeah, we know what you think. Well, today's the 27th of August 2018, by the way. I recommended this article to a number of Christian friends of mine and also a number of non-Christian friends because they might like to know more about these exoplanets, as they call them. They've discovered 3,000 of them in more recent times. Some of them are Earth-like, they believe that, them to be. Now, the question is, if there's intelligent life discovered on these planets, and you could say, straight away people would say, oh, how do you do that, etc., etc., but that's only part of the issue. If they admit that there's been a cover-up and there's been lies for 70 years plus over UFOs and aliens and all that sort of thing, and there's even been talk of certain governments, the United States in particular, I understand, have actually in communication or cooperation with certain alien species, I'll put it that way. Now, I'm not getting off into all of that right now as such, but I would say that one of the things that I saw on a video just very, very recently was that apart from national security reasons at the time in covering up the Roswell incident, which was one of the better known, where they'd recovered bodies, and it is said that they might have had a couple of beings that were still alive and taken into captivity, and that there are certainly quite a number of witnesses and people, one of them who's still around is the son of the rancher who had brought home pieces of this strange metal, and one beam had all kinds of hieroglyphics on it and all that sort of thing. And the metal couldn't be cut, couldn't be drilled, couldn't be burnt. There was, if you crunch it up, put it on the desk or whatever, it'd unfold precisely into its proper shape again. Flat piece of metal, and all those sorts of things. We know about all these many cases that I've discussed in the past and people know about. But this article in particular, they ask, would it shatter religious beliefs and faiths and everything else? And I've got to say straight out, I am a Christian and I accept God and I accept Jesus as Lord and Saviour. I am in a good position in one respect though, because if aliens are shown to be absolutely true and so on, which may occur in the next few years, no one knows in fact when it could occur, I'm in a position of at least saying, well, I've accepted that for a very, very long time, and I've had UFOs sighting, including taking photographs of a silver disc in 1967, a long time ago. Now, I remember that very, very well. Broad daylight and all the rest of it. We're not dealing with some strange light in the sky that might have been one thing or another, and so on. So that sort of adds into my acceptance. It's just a similar situation to I accept God and I accept the fact that I've had very powerful out-of-body and also near-death experiences quite separately. And I've researched that, and I've researched this alien situation or UFOs and so on for years. Now, I'm going to name two people here that would seem to some of you to be completely opposite ends of a spectrum, but they're not really. Pastor Joseph Prince is very well known and respected, and a good speaker and a good teacher. He comes from Singapore. He said, if there's evidence, extremely clear evidence of something, and people won't accept that evidence, they are unteachable. What he was talking about in the context he was talking about was Christianity, I believe. He's talking about Christian issues and so on. Here's the evidence. If you don't accept the evidence, well, you haven't got a hope because you're unteachable. Well, they could equally be talking about the UFO situation or aliens and so on, because the evidence is overwhelming, and some people just say, no, I'd rather bury my head in the sand, I'd rather not hear it. I'll close my ears and eyes and wait for a while, and when I wake up I hope it's all gone away. Well, it's not going to go away. So the other person I'd mentioned, and I've discussed this with various friends, is Stanton Friedman. I in fact discussed it in particular with Paul Murphy and Brett Groves. Please write down the name Stanton Friedman, have a look at his videos about him and about his speeches, or shall I say lectures and so on that he's given. And he researched Roswell over 50 years thoroughly, and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that what was alleged to have occurred at the time did in fact take place. So those two names, as I say, for anyone interested in researching the subjects we're talking about, but I'm particularly talking now about these exoplanets that they've raised. They said they discovered 3,000 of them, including several that are Earth-like. In other words, what they call rather in a sort of funny kind of a way, they're in the Goldilocks position. In other words, not too hot, not too cold, just right, in other words, for life. Now, we're not getting into whether life evolves, though I don't believe it does. I believe evolution is impossible without God. Now, I've mentioned this to my brother. I said, I believe, and I don't think I'm the only person around who thinks this, that God created evolution and he spread it throughout the universe. But even if you took it down to pure God created all of it, that's fine too. It doesn't ruin our faith and acceptance at all of that. The only thing that, as I've raised this in the past as well, that sort of throws a bit of a spanner in the works a little bit, and we've discussed this and we can't fully resolve it, is distances of galaxies. And I've got a friend, John Edwards, who said he thought that there was a miscalculation in the distances of the galaxies. He knows about the method used. I can't explain it or understand it. But they say, the vast majority of physicists would say that the universe is over 13 billion years old, which would put paid to the idea that it's only 6,000 years old that many fundamentalists believe. The big problem, I think, in their belief is that if the scientists are right, they are therefore wrong in thinking that the universe is 6,000 years old. What is worse, let's say, is that when they discover that intelligent life exists all over the place around the universe, and absolute proof is made, or they'd say, well, how does God relate to these people? Did he create these people? And the answer is probably yes. Does he have a relationship with them? I don't know. Do they accept Jesus as Lord and Saviour? I don't know. These are the kind of things that it's impossible for me to answer. I'm sure a lot of people have made an attempt to answer that. But then automatically you have to accept, okay, well, they exist. How did they get there? Now, we can speculate even further and say, well, if we have open dialogue, if we have, in other words, half a dozen species, standing at the United Nations and giving speeches, which they could do because they apparently they use like telepathy. They don't have to speak verbally. That anyone in their presence, whatever language they speak, by the way, can understand them, which is rather mind-blowing for some people. But anyway, the point is, we as a society need to prepare ourselves for the possibility of having all this revealed, having the truth come out, that there's been a cover-up and lies over many decades, and that if it extends to the point where we say, well, we've got these various alien races we've been in contact with, we've been frightened that people would be panicking over it, or that many of the world's faiths, and this article, by the way, in that magazine discusses what Christians, what they believe, what Muslims believe, what Catholics believe, which is slightly different than the Christian doctrines, let's say, and what the Jews would believe, and then of course Buddhists and so on. So it's interesting from that point of view, and I'd ask my friends, whether as I said, Christian or non-Christian, to read the article and think it through, and then conclude what they feel. In other words, be prepared for the time when these things will be revealed. Now, I'm not suggesting they're going to happen next week or next year, or I don't know when they'll happen, but my point is always, I believe they will, and then we'll have a terrific amount of discussion and interest. The world will be totally alarmed and amazed. I don't think there'd be a panic, and I don't think there'd be a terrible situation, but faith itself in all, and when we're talking from the point of view where a vast majority of people do have a faith, so faith itself would have to reconcile itself with the reality of the time. It would no longer be, I wonder if there's any life out there and everything else. If that is fully revealed, they have to have a look at their doctrines, at their books, and the Bible and everything else, whether it's the Bible, Quran, and all the rest of it, whatever they may be. They have to look at everything and then reconcile with all of that. So I'm putting my views out there anyway for my friends to consider, and I welcome any comments, and I've sent, as I said, the article to a number of people, and I do look forward to getting something back from them. So thanks very much for viewing.